Good evening, everybody. Tonight we're going to go over the 4 word problems. I want you to take a look at the relationships in the word problem so that we know whether it's a greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, or less than or equal to. I want you to take a look at, once you've developed that relationship, how to plug the algebraic expressions in so that we have an algebraic inequality. Then look at what your solution is, check it, and also see how we write that in a real world situation. In other words, write your answer in a sentence that answers the question. So with that said, let's get started with the first problem. So Bryce needs to save $650 for a laptop. She already has $900. She's going to spend the rest of her money to buy books. We need to write and solve an inequality to show how much Bryce can spend on books. Well, we can only spend money that we have, right? So the money she has, let me just erase that, I'm sorry. The money she has to be greater than or equal to the cost of the laptop. In other words, if she doesn't have the money, if she doesn't have $650, then she can't buy the laptop. Well, how much money does she have? Well, she has $900 right now, but she wants to spend some money on books. If you spend money, that's going to subtract how much money? We don't know. That's what we're trying to figure out. That amount of money has to be greater than or equal to the cost of the laptop. So money she has to be greater than the cost of the laptop, otherwise she can't buy the laptop. If you can't set that inequality up, if you can't do a true statement, then your inequality is incorrect. Make sure that you can write a statement which is true so that then we can start building. I'm going to pause the video here and finish up and come up with a solution. Well, hopefully you got x is less than or equal to 250 once you set that up. If you didn't, go back and check your work. So what does this mean? Well, it means that as long as this value is less than $250, then she will have more money than $650 or equal to $650. So she'll be able to buy her laptop. So she can spend no more than $250 on books. If she spends more than $250 on books, then she won't have enough money for laptops. Okay, this next problem talks about Matthew, and he wants to download a number of songs from iTunes. They each cost 75 cents, and he has $14 to spend on music. How many songs can he download? So where's my inequality here? Well, he wants to spend money. He wants to spend money, but you can only spend the money that you have. So you can only spend I have to spend less than or equal to the amount of money that I have. I hope that makes sense. You can't spend more money than you have. So he wants to spend money. How much money does he want to spend? Well, he wants to spend 75 cents on each download. So X stands for each download. That amount has to be less than or equal to the amount of money that he has. If this statement is true, then as long as we don't spend up to $14, we're okay. I'm going to pause and solve the problem. So hopefully when you came through and solved this, as you can see, I converted the 75 cents into 3/4, and I solved for X, and I got 56/3. And because I was interested in the number of downloads, I actually put it into a mixed number. So X is less than or equal to 18 2/3. So as long as X is less than 18 2/3, then my money that I have will be okay, $14. So how many downloads can I do? I can download 18 songs. Hopefully you can see why you can't down 2/3 of a song. So I can only download 18 songs maximum. As long as I download 18 songs, then that will be less than the $14 which I have to spend. If I download more than 18 songs, then I will spend more than the $14 that I have to spend. Next question. So the Cedar Valley 8th grade girls basketball team is playing in a tournament. They scored 36 points in the first game, 44 in the second. What is the least number of points that they scored in game 3 if their average score in the tournament was at least 39 points? So when you see this kind of question, the first thing you need to ask yourself is, how do I find average? Well, I would just take score 1 plus score 2 plus score 3, and I would divide that by 3. And that's how I find average. Well, in this particular situation, they want the average to be at least 39 points. So, if I want it to be at least 39 points, I want it greater than or equal to 39 points. So, if they just gave me score 1, score 2, and score 3, I could check to see if it was greater than or equal to 39 points. I can find the average. Well, let's take a look here. In the first game, they scored 36 points. In the second game, they scored 44 points. And in the third game, that's what they want us to find out. So we can call the third game, my unknown, I'll call that X. We could call it S, but as you know, in my class, I don't like to use S as a variable. Okay, and I'm going to divide all of that by 3, and that has to be greater than or equal to 39. I'm going to pause it again and solve the problem, and then we'll talk a little more in a second. So, as you can see, I've solved the problem. I did jump through some steps, but the objective of tonight's video is to show you how to set up the word problems. So, I have X is greater than 37. So, when X is greater than 37, then this is a true statement. When X is greater than 37, then I will score at least an average of 39 points in the 3 games. So if I'm going to write that in a sentence, I would say they would need to score at least 37 points to have an average of 39 points. Could you check that? Could you put 37 back into here, add it to 44 and 36 and divide it by 3 and see if it was at least 39 points? Absolutely. Could you see that if they scored 40 points, if your average was greater than 39? Absolutely. So we can still do the check steps here. So please don't abandon the check steps just because we're dealing with word problems. Did your solution give you a valid conclusion? Because if you end up with a check step that looks like this, X is less than or equal to 37, a number less than 37 would be 0. 36 plus 44 plus 0 divided by 3. Does that give me at least an average of 39 points? And hopefully you'll be able to check that and realize you've made a mistake with your inequality. So, I set up the relationship. I'm looking for average. How would I do that if I had real numbers? I would add 1, 2, and 3 and divide by 3. I plug in the numbers they gave me and I put in the relationship X in this case. All right, just like in the quiz, we could have made that even more complicated with game 1 or game 2 as long as we talked in the same terms. And then once I solve the problem, I put my answer in the form of a real life situation. In other words, I need to score at least 37 points to have an average of 39 points. All right, let's pause and I'll set up the last. And this is most probably my favorite question. I love these types of questions. So Sam has $100 in the bank and deposits $18 per month, and Sydney has $145 in the bank and deposits $15 per month. And they want to know for how many months will Sydney have more money in the bank than Sam. Well, right now, we know that Sydney has 145 and Sam has 100. We know that Sydney has more money. So the relationship is Sydney greater than, and we want to know how many months we'll have more money, so it has to be greater than, more money than Sam. And now we're just going to build an inequality based upon the information that they gave us in the word problem. So Sydney has $145 plus $15 per month. So X stands for months. If this was 2 months, 15 times 2. If it was 4 months, 15 times 4. So that tells me how much money Sydney has. We want this to be greater than what Sam has. Sam has $100 plus $18 per month. Okay, I'm going to pause this and solve it. And I obviously jumped a lot of steps there. So I have X is less than 15, and hopefully you got that. If you're not able to solve these, please make sure you come in for tutorials ASAP. So we have X is less than 15. So this statement is true when X is less than 15. So for how many months will Sydney have more money in the bank than Sam? This statement is true when X is less than 15. So at 15 months, will Sydney have more money than Sam? The answer should be no. So for how many months will Sydney have more money in the bank than Sam? The answer is for 14 months, Sydney will have more money. What happens at month 15? Absolutely. The amount of money Sydney has is equal to the amount of money Sam has. That's why it's important that we always go back and make sure we set up the problem correctly and set up the inequality correctly. In this case, we wanted to know for how many months will Sydney have more money. Okay, if we wanted it to say equals, it would have have more or the same as Sam. All right, well, hopefully this helps. Hopefully you'll be more prepared for the test tomorrow. If this did not make sense, please make sure you come in early in the morning for tutorials before you take the test. And with that, I will say good night.